on lunch break with a critic and a politician who happens to be you today. People want to know what politicians have to offer. Years we've been promised, and what this live affords the Guyanese people is a first-hand opportunity to reach the politician. Where you are, they ask the questions, they send it on WhatsApp to 622-7740, and I will present the questions. How they come, we go with them. We didn't deal with nonsensical questions, positive questions, right? But what we first do is, you are the presidential candidate for the People's Progressive Party, and you're vying, or you're looking at the possibility of being the next president of this country. Why should Guyanese people, even, let's say, pay attention?
Well, first of all, Critic, we have been on the campaign trail for some time now. Personally, I've been all across Guyana, every single part of this country, over a year and a half now. And I've had the personal experience of listening to people, listening to their concerns, understanding their needs, understanding the real problems on the ground, and to hear it directly from them, to be in the communities that are affected. We also embarked on a journey in the preparation of our manifesto, with the inclusion of people, inclusion of stakeholders, inclusion of different views. So we were able to present today and in our manifesto over the last few months a program and a plan that speak directly to the needs of the people, the developmental agenda of our country, taking our country forward, creating new opportunities, bringing back those jobs that we have lost, creating new jobs, getting back on a progressive housing program, re-energizing the economy, helping the productive sector to once again build up steam and perform. The gold sector, the mining sector, the forestry sector, agriculture, bauxite, these are sectors that have all declined tremendously. And we have outlined a clear agenda that would bring back these sectors to progress on a progressive path, so that they will be able to create jobs, and they will perform.
Okay, so you basically be on the ground, you have an understanding of how the people have been affected, and you guys have rolled out a plan in form of a manifesto.
That's right.
As to how you're going to address these issues.
Yeah, we have rolled out a manifesto. We have set a set of policies. We have shared ideas and a vision that has clarity. It's very important that in assessing where the country is going forward and who you're supporting, you have to look at their agenda, their developmental agenda, their vision, and ensure that there is clarity in that vision. No, this is not a set of promises, but this is a clearly defined pathway. This is a set of policies and objectives that we'll pursue to bring back vibrancy and to create a prosperous Guyana, a Guyana in which all our people can have improved livelihood, improved condition of living, and our country benefits at the end of the day. So it's a vision that has clarity. It is not locked in a single sector. It is not locked, for example, in oil and gas. It speaks about a broad segments of the Guyana economy, agriculture, how we're going to develop the agricultural sector, the mining sector, how we're going to create employment, how is the housing sector going to evolve, and the type of social benefits and welfare issues that we have to deal with to address issues that the vulnerable are facing in our society every day. How we're going to address those issues also and ensure that the inequality gap does not widen, but that we can bring it back and have parity in terms of how the distribution of wealth goes forward.
Before we go into the questions and answers, over the years, the PPP has sought to represent Guyana and has presented themselves, likewise the PNC. It is obvious after 54 years, no one individual or no one political party can have an in-depth understanding that would address all the issues of Guyanese because of our racial differences and because of our history. Have you thought about what you would do if you were president? What you would do to unify this country?
Well, Critic, it's an important question because our country can only move forward if we build an agenda in which all the people feel as if they're included. If we have a development pathway that all our people feel as if they're part of, and at the end of the day, all our people must see themselves as winners in the program that we present. So first of all, we have to have a form of governance that is inclusive to ideas, inclusive to the sharing of ideas, inclusive in ensuring that we widen the reach of government and widen how government operates itself, the governance mechanism. To do that, we have to have greater involvement of civil society. We have to have greater involvement in various stakeholders. And in our manifesto itself, for example, in the oil and gas sector, we made very clear that there will be a role for civil society. There will be strengthening of parliamentary mechanism. Take, for example, the Public Accounts Committee. The Public Accounts Committee is an important committee of Parliament that has oversight responsibility on how resources are spent and review of the Auditor General report. But it has no power in terms of sanctions and action. I think once you ask that question, when you come up and you find all these weaknesses, what do you do after that? So we have to ensure that the parliamentary system works. We give more powers in the parliamentary system, more reach in the parliamentary system, the greater involvement of civil society and other stakeholders, whether they be trade unions, religious organizations. So you have a government that has a wider reach because it is inclusive of the views of all the stakeholders of our country, and they are included too in the governance mechanism of our country.
Another thing, yesterday you went to a meeting with GCOM.
Yes.
Mr. Barajagio said that he put forward 23 issues that are affecting, but one of the main issues that are affecting was with the polling stations. Yeah. GCOM has made some adjustments.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, yesterday there was a meeting, where we are today, because this would be able to help people to understand better. Is there or here in the news, but from your point of view,
yeah,
what you are fighting for, you have gotten to some extent. Are you satisfied, and what's going on?
Well, we had raised 23 issues in a letter to GCOM, one of which was the issue of the polling stations.
The private residences.
The private residences, and it's not only confined to private residences. It is it's in areas where you will have tremendous difficulties on polling day because of the number of persons that had to access particular polling stations. In some areas you have 7,000 persons voting in one particular location. You also had the issue of avoiding conflicts and the fear factor. We have to live in the reality. We have realities in our country that we have to take into consideration. So that was one of the issues that we raised with GCOM. And we did not pursue all the areas where the private residents were removed. We just pursued the critical areas because we understand that elections is a few days away and we wanted those critical areas fixed. Yes, last night GCOM would have informed us that they are going to fix those areas, Monrepo, Fowles, and in Borby's 2 areas, that they have agreed to fix those areas. Now, there are other issues too that were raised, issues in terms of clarity, clarity of instruction to the presiding officer on polling day itself, so that you won't have a presiding officer acting on their own, but that all the parties would be equipped with a manual certified by the chief elections officer that can also be made public in the press, that this is what they're expected to do, this is how they're expected to act, and these are the do's and don'ts. In that way, all the stakeholders are on board, all of Guyana is on board, and they understand with great clarity where what the electoral process says has to happen on various issues on election day. So that's also an important issue. And great.
Any answer? Did you receive any answer there?
No, they said these are all things that they would have considered, and they would get back to us on those. They've gotten back to us on the polling stations, but these are still issues that are there that we're waiting.
Are you satisfied with GCOM's final decision on polling stations? As to they give you a specific locations. How many more polling stations will they be putting back in Monroe
we said at the meeting we did not want to propose any residence or anything. That is a job for GCOM. They must go and identify where the polling station will be. They have agreed in total to 12 new polling stations in total, but they will have to come back to us now and say where they have identified. That decision was taken last night, so I assume sometime today they'll be finalizing that.
All right, that's quite an earful. Have you guys been paying attention to this? Now you'll have questions from before. You're most likely going to have something in your head as the questions you want to ask. So we go first right in to the first question. And please ask Mr. Ali, what is his plans for the LGBT community? What's your take on that?
Well, we have made it very clear. We've always held the position that all Guyanese must be respected. All Guyanese rights must be respected. They must have right to employment. Those rights must be protected. They must be treated fairly. They must not be discriminated against. And those are the fundamental principles that we operate on. That all our Guyanese, every single Guyanese must be treated with respect equally. Their rights must be protected, and they must not be discriminated against.
Good afternoon, Mr. Critic and Dr. Ali. When elected, what would you do to ensure that equal wealth distribution and job creation is in all 10 regions, not just region 4?
Very important question. Now, and this is why we have to have what we call a regional plans for every single region. We have to understand what are the competitive advantages in every single region, and then we have to design an investment platform that would motivate investment in different areas to go into different regions. Let me give you, for example, today we do not know, the government has not told us what is the quantum of gas we're talking about. So we can't have a forward plan as to what industries can be created. There is no clearly defined places to where the gas would land, if there is enough gas to build a downstream industry. And that can be a massive downstream industry that will create thousands of jobs. Then we have the deepwater port, for example, that we are proposing for Barbies. That will create a whole set of new business, logistics businesses, brokerage, financial services.
So you're just in Region 60 right here?
Yeah, free zone. Then you have the bridging of the Quarantine River. Then you come into Region 5, for example, we have to support the agricultural sector, ensure that we reduce the input costs for rice production, help them in increasing yield so that productivity goes up and rice becomes far more profitable. We have to help in sustaining markets also there, bring back the sugar industry. And in addition to all of this, we have to link an industrial development there also. And that by itself, new wave of business opportunity, jobs and so on, but it has to be supported by a proper fiscal incentive regime that push investment there. The same thing for the Linden-Soos-Dyke Highway. We have to have an extended urbanized plan for that area, especially with a new superhighway that will come all the way from Timeri into Georgetown and along the East Coast. So new areas of growth will be created right along that new highway, all the way going down to the East Coast. So these new areas of growth will not only create housing opportunity, it will create commercial activities, warehousing, industrial development, manufacturing, and we have to create an incentive regime that would motivate investors to go into this direction. We're also talking about the creation of a knowledge sector, where we create educational services and health services as export-oriented commodities that can earn foreign currency. In Grenada, for example, you have the St. George's University that supports the economy in a major way. It's the strongest support to the Grenadian economy. So we have to look at what we need to do to get the competitive advantage. For example, we have a natural good eco-biodiversity product. How is it we're going to build that product not only from a tourism perspective, which will help the hinterland and interior, but how is it that we can build an educational facility that is world-class, that can be supported by this natural product we have, and at the same time be a major earner in terms of economic wealth and opportunity. Then we also have to ensure that all our people have access to education, for example. So our brothers and sisters living in Region 9, Region 1, Region 8, Region 2, they have tremendous difficulties in having access to university education. So with the investment in ICT and rolling out a distance and online education program, we will now be able to take university education to those communities, so they will have access to university education too. Then we have to build our technical capacity. The technical institutes, we have to link it to the requirements of the economy. If oil and gas, for example, in downstream industry would require a new set of skill set, we have to build our technical institute output to meet that requirement that the economy will want. And to do that, we have to invest in newer programs, and we also have to invest in ensuring that more of our young people, especially those who are more technical oriented, a lot of them who may have dropped out of secondary school are more technically oriented, and they can have this opportunity and link it to the output of the economy, and link it also to major government investment programs, like the housing program, the construction sector, so they can have employment too when they come out of these programs. So, and it is really is a push to ensure that there is a balance in development in the urban areas, suburban areas, and the rural areas. That by itself would create a diversified wealth portfolio for our country. And the wealth and job creation would not only be centralized in one area. You also see in Puerto Rico, for example, that a lot of steam is picking up there and interest in terms of the waterfront facility. But Puerto Rico is connected to all these islands that has a lot of agricultural output. And what we have to do now is to invest in an agro-processing and packaging facility there that will create a natural market and add value to the produce from these islands, and then be able to ship it directly from there to the rest of CARICOM at the initial stage, because that's a $10 billion market. To do this, we have to ensure we have the international certification. To get the international certification, the government has to invest in the infrastructure itself. And once we do this, it will give us greater access to new markets, higher paying markets, and we'll be able to add the value. In addition to that, we have to invest in the Amilas Falls Hydro Project and newer forms of energy, including natural gas. So we are looking at 400 megawatts of new power, and we have to bring down the cost of electricity by at least 70%. Once we achieve this, then we will be more than competitive in terms of our agro-processed product and manufacturing and industrial development, and we can become a natural hub for investment in these areas. So these are some of the things. Then of course, we have to help the mining sector, give them back those incentives, help them to recapitalize themselves, remove back the taxes on equipment and machinery. We have to help the miners to get back working. 60% of the dredges that were operating in 2015 are no longer operating. We have to help the small and medium-sized miners too, help them to get access to land, build a more transparent way in which lands are allocated, so that the miners and the mining sector can revitalize itself and become stronger. We have to support that. We also have to support the forestry sector, ensure that the forestry sector, the taxes are removed, support them in recapitalizing also, look at new markets for them, because the forestry sector took a severe hit also. To do this, we have to again invest in the infrastructure, give the tax incentives, give other incentive to put them back into the sector and to bring new investment also. And that is why we said we will support the sector by having $2 billion at least every year for hinterland road network. And that also would help the community and reduce the cost of operation.
That basically encaptures a plan that takes you across all 10 regions.
Well, Region 10 too, we have specific plans. Specific plans not only to support the revitalization of bauxite, but plans that would see the creation of new jobs. And it is all about adding disposable income to the society. For example, we had a call center there that I think 200 persons were employed, and the government closed it down within the first year. If we are able to reduce the cost of bandwidth, increase the speed of internet, and have reliability, then you can have the call center business, which is a massive business globally, taken into Linden, and persons who are housewives now can work on shift system there, adding to household income, adding to disposable income of the family. And then of course we have the ecotourism product, making that area, Region 10 area, a hub for, in the supply chain for the forestry sector, for the mining sector, creating a logistics business in terms of shipping and connectivity with the oil and gas sector. Then you have Region 9, where the massive transformational project for Guyana that is linked to the Deepwater Harbor and into Brazil will take place. Then that can eventually become a free zone. You'll have containerized traffic that will create new forms of job. But we also this is where we have to train our people. We're talking also about support for mega farms, having mega farms in a sustainable manner that add value, and then supporting the communities in food production, ensuring the communities become sustainable in those regions. Then, of course, so this will take us, I'm just briefly giving you some of the ideas in creating wealth, bringing money in every segment of our country, and to show you how the development is linked. The transformational development is linked to every single region. Then, of course, whilst the question was the jobs are not concentrated in Region 4, we also have to realize that we have a massive segment of our population in Region 4. And we have to resolve the issue of urban unemployment and also urban underemployment. To do this, we have to areas. We have to support those areas. We have to get a lot of those young people integrated back into the economic system, retooling them, reskilling them, training them in the new areas that will in the new areas that will emerge in the new areas that will emerge from oil and gas, and other opportunities that will come about tomorrow. So the plan also, whilst it seems from the outside that the jobs are concentrated in Region 4, it is because most of the commercial activity, most of the manufacturing activity is basically located in Region 4 now. So there's an influx of people who come into Region 4 on a daily basis to work. But once we build the mechanism and infrastructure, you will see a lot of jobs created out of Region 4 and opportunities being sought in those areas.
Moving fast and affording everybody an opportunity to question this issue I addressed this morning. It has to do with a lot of fake news circulating about the place. And the person's question, because I addressed it this morning, but nobody better than you to basically said yes or no. Critic, do you ask Irfaan about the jet? I would like to know about that. The thing is, straightforward, yes or no. Do you have a private jet?
Absolutely not, Critic.
Roger that. Safe.
Absolutely.
Don't even go into that. We're done with that. So we're moving on.
Well, I just want to make one point here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where our society itself has to mature on. and our society have to understand that this is not a personality clash. This is not about fake news. This is about the future of our country. And the best way to examine what plans and which political party has a menu of measure that gives you the greatest hope for a more prosperous country, a more progressive country, a more democratic country, a country that fairness and justice is there, a safer country. These are the things we have to talk about. These are the things we must spend our time debating issues, policies, debating strategies, debating a vision, understanding in great clarity what each political party is putting on the table for the improvement of your life.
What's your take on our local content policy? And when given the opportunity in government, how do you see making adjustments to the local content policy?
Let's start from what I will say the outer circle. Now there are a lot of opportunities that is created from the oil and gas sector. We have to put ourselves and give ourselves an opportunity to benefit from those opportunities. To do this, the government has to make critical investment on behalf of the people to equip them, to give them the certification, and to give them the ability to benefit from those investments. We have, for example, 4 new hotels that will come. You heard to service the sector and what will take place in Guyana. But we have not yet established a school of hospitality management that we'll have to train our Guyanese, train our young people to take up different positions in the hotel sector. That's just one example. Then let's look at a very simple example. The drivers for the oil and gas sector. The drivers are expected also to be force responders. So they have to have training and certification in force response as a force responder. Now, we can't ask the drivers out there to go and spend $2,000 US to get this certification. It is the role and responsibility of the government to provide just to bring in a trainer. These are the opportunities that exist in this segment of the market. Train our people, get them certified. The oil company also has a responsibility to ensure that Guyanese are given a fair opportunity, that Guyanese are given a real opportunity. I'll give you another example. I was at Ogun, traveling to the interior, and I saw operations being conducted there with the choppers, and up to the tractors. The tractor drivers were foreigners. So I inquired, and they said even the person who washed the choppers, cleaned the choppers, were foreigners. Now, something is wrong here. It means that we are not paying attention. We need to have clarity on what are the opportunities in the oil and gas sector. We have to have a holistic checklist. These are the opportunities in each segment of the oil and gas sector. Here is the skills that are required. Okay, if we have this skill, then there is a gap. This is the gap between what is required and what exists in Guyana. So that then we can have a clearly defined pathway in which we'll develop a training program to bridge that gap. So if it is not immediately, in the medium term, we'll be able to have the trained personnel to take up the opportunities in the oil and gas sector. So there is no gap analysis. There is no understanding as to what the requirement for the sector will be. There is no understanding as to where the sector will evolve itself. If, for example, oil and gas comes, and you have a downstream industry, and you have agrochemical business coming out of it, you have fertilizer business coming out of it, what is the manpower requirement for these new opportunities? How is it we're going to ensure that we fulfill this manpower requirement with as far as possible Guyanese employees? To do this, we have to understand where the sector is going. We have to understand what the needs of the sector will be. And we have to understand what the gap will be, and then we'll be able to design a proper program that will equip our people to fill those gaps. So,
have you read the local content policies that we presently have?
It's not, I don't see it as a local content policy. There is no local content. How can you have a local content policy when you don't even understand what constitutes local content? What opportunities?
Let's take one step back here, Dr. Ali. Yeah. You said something there just captured me. The drivers have first response training?
No, I'm saying that the
drivers in the oil and gas industry.
Drivers, for example, came to me and they said to me that even the jobs for taxis and the drivers,
they have to have first response training,
are not given to Guyanese because they have to have this first response.
Have you taken into consideration ExxonMobil has come to Guyana? They're forging their way and ideas on Guyanese, deciding how jobs are, what are the requirements to fit these jobs, while drivers are basically for executives and maybe the workers and so on. It's not much cumbersome. We have hundreds of thousands of Guyanese traversing on a daily basis, and our minibus drivers or our taxi drivers don't need those requirements.
We have to also take into consideration that we can't look at everything in a simplistic manner. We have to understand that the oil and gas industry has certain international standards, has certain standards that they have to comply with, right? But we have a responsibility as a government in understanding what those standards are, that they have to comply with, to ensure that our manpower is trained. We give them the opportunity by investing in them to meet those standards, so that they won't have an excuse of not giving our local Guyanese the opportunity. The same thing, but there are other areas too that you don't need any certification and you see those businesses going away from Guyanese. I've not been able to check it, but maybe you can check it. The whole issue of brokerage and logistics, brokerage services. We have brokers who have been operating in this country all their life, and we have seen that the brokerage service, for example, I was told Guyanese are not getting the brokerage service. The contract, I think, has been given to a Trinidadian company. These are things that we have to analyze and to see why is it. We have to ask the question: why is it a Guyanese company or a Guyanese broker was not considered? And we have to ask these questions in protecting local interests. So, we have to understand that the government has a responsibility in this local content to eliminate the excuse from the oil and gas sector also. And we have to fulfill that responsibility. We also have to have an understanding with great clarity as to where the sector is going, what are the opportunities, so we can identify that gap. And then our private sector. We have to ensure that the contracts are not written in such a way, or the bids are not designed in such a way to exclude our local private sector.
Have the people learned from their past mistakes?
I just want to finish, let me finish this point. The local private sector, if the contracts are written in a way that requires X amount of turnover that a local company cannot achieve, or the contract administration in such a way that you have to wait 6 months or 3 months before you get payment, and you have $2 million US overdraft, then it affects your ability to participate in that contract. So we have to ensure that the bids are not designed in a way to exclude the local private
When you say
sector.
we, you mean a PPP-led administration?
Yes, the government.
Is going to create an atmosphere.
It's not only we, the PPP, we the people, right? Led by the government, the PPP government, because the government is elected to represent the people. And we have to understand that if the contract administration is designed in such a way that is inhibitive to private sector participation, or that put the private sector here, or businesses here, in a weaker position to participate, then we have to address that also in contract management and bid design.
In moving forward, very interesting question here. Governments come and go, but no one has ever stated, is there any plan for a branch of the University of Guyana in Linden, since large amounts of students are actually from Linden? How do you plan to deal with that backlog? This is the Linden thing, and how do you plan to deal with the backlog of housing application for from 2001?
All right, so let's take the first question.
Mm-hmm.
With the plan that we have for education, and the world has changed. The blocks and mortar business model is changing globally because of technology. Universities are no longer building big campuses anywhere. Universities are now, more of their students are now enrolled through distance and online mechanism, and also learning centers. So you have multifunctional buildings. And that is why we are pursuing the path of this, so that every single community, every single region will have access to university education through distance and online education. So you don't.
So there will be a hub in Linden,
most
that
definitely,
will afford university students.
in every single region, with investment in ICT, students, and it helped the students from Linden too, because it saved them transportation costs. Some of them it saved them rental. That is money that goes back in their pocket to other things, right? And the second question was
housing, backlog
right.
of housing application from 2000.
Okay, so we in PPP, we have been able to regularize and allocate more than 100,000 house lots during the years in government. During the period I was Minister of Housing, we have been able to allocate 30,000 house lots. We have also been able to design not only a housing.
Do you know from since the beginning, 1992, how many house lots were distributed by the PPP?
I just said it, more than 100,000.
100,000.
Right?
So one-third of that, just slipped me, one-third of that, you personally oversaw the distribution of?
During the period I was minister, 30,000 house lots were allocated.
Okay.
Now, and that is in Amelia's ward, in every single region. We started the hinterland housing program, that we took housing solutions to hinterland areas. We started the home improvement program, and you know, we should go back to the IDB report critic and see what they said about the housing sector during that period. See what the Caribbean Development Bank report says about the housing development during that period, and you will have an independent understanding as to how our program was respected globally and regionally, and in some instances, our housing program was used as a model. And we should celebrate these things, but sometimes we get stuck in politics and we don't celebrate the things that we as a people are able to build, we the people are able to create. Now, so the issue is not only house lot, it's ensuring we have affordable housing, giving incentives to persons to have lower interest loan, to getting access to resources to build their homes, removing the taxes on building material, helping to reduce the cost of construction. That is also an important aspect. Giving incentive to young people in home ownership, whether it's tax break, the mortgage relief program is a prime example. These are things that motivate people towards home ownership. So in designing the 50,000 house lot program that we are planning for the future, we're taking into consideration and priority will be given to the existing applications and then also to new applications. The housing program is not going to stop until every single one of those applications in the system is processed.
What do you have, what plans do you have for the sugar workers?
Well, we have already said very clearly that we're going to reopen the estates. In the case of Wales, where everything has been removed and broken, we don't even know what is the status of the land. We are hearing that the land has been allocated to individuals. There is some information that has been outlined in the leader of the opposition press conference in relation to that. But in areas like those, we have to help those families until we're able to bring a solution to the Wales issue. But the sugar is here to stay. We're going to reinvest in sugar and reopen those estates.
Border control.
Border control is a very important issue, and we have said in the manifesto that we need to support the Army and the police in terms of border patrol and border protection. That is why we have said in the manifesto that we must examine the development of a border police system. The border police system will allow us in communities, for example, in Region 9, Region 8, Region 1, to include in a greater way and in a more structured way the communities themselves in border protection, border monitoring. And then at the second level, we have to invest in the technology. There's a lot of technology now that allows us to have real-time monitoring of the border and assessment and continuous assessment. These are the investments we have to make also to protect our borders.
The questions are just flowing in. What is the plan for housing? We answered that already. What is the plan for education?
Education is a very, very, very key area for us moving forward. We are going to have some premier institutes. First of all, well, let me start from private education. We are going to support private education by removing the corporate tax on private education providers. We want education, investment in education to be an export-oriented service that earns foreign currency. While we do that, we have to support the public educational system also. We are going to have an International Institute of Hospitality Management, an International Institute of Biodiversity Study. We're going to strengthen the Environmental Science Department at the University of Guyana to make it internationally an international product. We have to develop our own Institute of Oil and Gas Management that is of international standard. These are things that new facilities and institutions that we're going to invest in. But we have been able to achieve universal primary education. We now have to work on ensuring that we achieve universal secondary education, that all our children have access to secondary education, that none of our children in Guyana stay out of school because they don't have food, or because they don't have the right nutrition, or because they don't have the uniform. So we're going to have a nutrition program to support an expanded school feeding program to support those vulnerable communities and children, the return of the school uniform program, the return of the Because We Care grant, the $10,000 grant, and increasing that to $50,000 per child. These are things that will help to support children going to school, support them staying in school. And then we have those persons who would drop out of secondary school, not because they don't like education, but because they may be more technically oriented. So we have to support them, identify them before, help them and stream them to more technical education, supporting them, acquiring technical education, and then placing them in the society, ensuring that their technical education is linked to job creation. And in some cases, after the technical education, link them to entrepreneurial training, give them small grants, give them the tools of their trade, and help them to enter as new small entrepreneurs in their field of study.
We're talking about a number of things. Politicians have been promising a number of things. It's all amazing, it's all good. What has not happened? We have failed to recognize one of the important pillars of our society, that are women, right? We are here, myself and you are here, we were given birth to by a woman. You're recently married, you have a child, you're comforted by a woman. Do you see government, the need for government to address domestic violence? It's something that's growing,
Yeah.
and nobody has been, consecutive governments have been unwilling to talk about specifically domestic violence.
I won't say unwilling, and we have not addressed. The domestic violence goes beyond government. It involves every segment of our society. It involves the religious organizations. It involves even schools. It involves social services, all stakeholders. This must be a national project to reduce the incidence of domestic violence and to attack it frontally. We need this to be a national project. This is not a political project. This is a project in which all of us must be involved, all stakeholders must be involved, and we must have a common understanding that we are not tolerating this as a country in our society, and we're not going to encourage it. We have education program. We have to have a strong education program, strong social program, early identification and risk program. And when you have early identification and risk, you have to then manage those risks. You have to go in there early, manage those risks, and don't wait until something happens and then you react. You have to have a proactive approach, and that proactive approach calls for the widening of involvement or stakeholders in tackling this problem.
Do you see the importance of a leader? No, let me put it this way for you. Do you think, as president, you should have the first lady, because the first lady got things to do, but do you think that should be one of the first and foremost tasks? Because if it comes from the top, everybody see that we're here. This is serious for this government. The first lady dealing specifically with domestic violence.
Not only
do you see that?
It is not a woman issue. This is not, definitely the first lady, and all women must play a major role. But this is not a woman issue. And this is where sometimes we are misguided. This is a national issue. This is where the behavioral pattern, mostly of male, has to change. And so it's not a woman issue and women must fight this. This is a national issue. And all of us in this country, all Guyanese, must fight it. More so the men, if we're going to attack it in a very fronted manner. So yes, the first lady must play a role and will play a role, but she will define what the major areas she wanted, the first lady would like to target. But this is not a woman issue. This is an issue that requires all of us to be part of the solution. The second thing is you started that question by asking what will you do for women. Women today, they have a greater, the enrollment rate at university is growing at a far faster pace than men, which is a very good thing, a very positive thing. We have to ensure that they have the same opportunities like any other segment of our population, same opportunities like men. We have to create special projects, for example, for a housewife to help them to earn, help them to have disposable income. We have to support them in terms of entrepreneurial opportunity and training. We have to support. We had a WOW initiative, for example, the Women of Work initiative, that had a special financing mechanism to help them to go into business. So we have to have a structure that support and ensure that women are treated equally, they're treated fairly, that justice is there for women, and that is how. And that also is not a government undertaking; that's a national undertaking. And we also, at the same time, we have to ensure that our male are not stepping out of their responsibility and stepping back in their participation in the growth of society and the growth of our country. So we have to examine at what rate how fast is the decline of men in terms of registering for university, of men participating in positive things, in upliftment and so on, the participation of men in their family, in the family life. So we also have to address that, because that too put a lot of burden on women if men are not taking up their responsibility. So we have to ensure that the men in the society too take up their responsibility, and that burden is not left on women too. We also have to address issues. We haven't spoken about this, and sometimes people would want to say it's a softer issue. It's a hardcore issue. Issues of mental health, for example, very important issue. You have many people suffering, but they don't even know they're suffering. And I've went to many communities, and this is one of the good things about being able to travel throughout the country over this last year and a half. There's some issues that we may want to think are soft issues that are critical issues for us to address, and mental health.
Well, I'm hoping we could hold the issue for another time. I'm going to have you another time before it's coming out. Two things, burning questions that are affecting people. We got 5 minutes, and I need these two questions answered. People are asking these questions. The oil contract. Do you agree with the 55 billion signed away Global Witness report? And will you revisit the other contract?
We have made it very clear, but we can never agree. How can, I don't think any Guyanese agree with this. No Guyanese, except the government that is defending it. We have made it very clear that we have to go towards relooking at these contracts, renegotiating these contracts, looking at contract management, and all of these things. Everything we have to relook at, because we have to ensure that our country does not get the wrong end of the stick.
So everything is on the table for review as it relates to oil contracts?
Yes, review and renegotiate.
The next thing. This is very important, and there is a trend across the world in leading democracies. Have you been shying away from presidential debates, and if so, why?
I have never shied away from any presidential debate. The thing is that we have, when you're in a campaign, you have a lot of things that you have to do. You have a lot of requests that come in to you on a daily basis. And time management becomes very important, very critical. We don't shy away from presidential debate. If I was shying away, I would not have been on your program in the kitchen.
Well, bear in mind, on my program, and a presidential debate that everybody's talking about, this is by international standards. Yourself, the president, some other main contenders. Is there a possibility for a presidential debate before elections?
For example, we have received from the managers in the office that they had over 12 requests at one time. Over 12 requests. So that
would you be considering?
That's they consider the scheduling. They're dealing with the scheduling, but I am not shying away from any debate. I was part of the St. Stanislaus College debating team that were champions.
Okay.
So
you're ready for the action?
I'm ready for, not, I won't say action, I'm ready for any opportunity to debate, any opportunity to explain, and to demonstrate to the Guyanese population that the People's Progressive Party Civic has a plan, a program that is clear, that is progressive, one that would look at the welfare of all the citizens of our country, one that will make our country safer, one that will give us a stronger economy, one that will create jobs, one that will reduce crime, one that will make us international partner that people will be proud of, one that will ensure we have proper contract administration and proper management of the oil and gas sector, one in which all other segments of our economy will benefit. The productive sector would regain life, mining sector will become active, stable, vibrant, and strengthened under us. Same for forestry. The vulnerable section of our society will be taken care of. These are things that our manifesto speak directly. The sugar workers will return to work. There will be support for our rice farmers. There will be support and special incentives for investment in specific region 10, region 9, for example, region 6, region 5. There are some transformative infrastructure that are critical for the future development of our country that will be pursued and accomplished, that will bring in jobs. There will be 50,000 new jobs. These are
Since we definitely.
Yes.
It was like a 50,000 man, 50,000 job, 50,000 house, that $50,000. Tell me how you come with it. Just like that?
No. Nothing in the manifesto came up just like that. We did a total analysis of what the opportunities will be in the future, understanding what the expenditure side of things would look like, and we have to cut back government expenditure too, and put those resources more into productive things where it matters. Look at the construction sector by itself, pretty. You have 50,000 house lots. If 20,000 people build their homes in the next 5 years, and 5 persons work on it, 20,000 by 5, that's 100,000. That's 100,000 employment opportunity, employment opportunity that will be created. Right? That's the housing construction sector. Look at it, and just going through government investment with you. The new bridge over the Demerara River. bridging of the Quarantine River, deep water port facility, warehousing. The Demar ports would have to be redeveloped and expanded and enhanced, the Demar ports. That because in another 3 years, Demar ports would not be able to take the traffic that is coming in. That's an important commercial hub. The support to the agricultural sector, more persons going back to work in mining, more persons going back to work in sugar, more persons going back to work in forestry. The 30,000 jobs we would have lost, that will be reinstated. So this is an underestimation. This is not guesswork. We're not into guesswork. We're into a very structured approach. That is why I said that we have great clarity as to where our country is going, and the plan is built on that clarity.
Dr. Ali, I want to thank you for affording me this opportunity. I'm hoping we can do this again.
Thank you.
I will try to make some arrangements. The President has not afforded me the opportunity for an interview. And the honest truth is that I have not gone through the protocols, because as the Guyanese critic, I think I'm at a whole different level. So I'm hoping we could do this again.
Anytime.
And in terms educate the people, I am wishing to take part in a debate where yourself and the President and other presidential candidates.
Any question in terms of our program, in terms of bringing greater clarity to our program, even if you want to shoot me the question by WhatsApp, I'll be more than happy
Beautiful.
to respond.
Beautiful. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.